The future perspective. During a morning walk, in a conversation, the Master said, "For as long as man does not know how to live rightly, God will not allow him to manifest himself. But when he learns, God will make him the bearer of his great deeds. We are now entering into a new phase. You will not remain in this position. A great future awaits you. For those who fulfill God's law, great opportunities await them. One day, every one of you will receive an inheritance which has awaited you for centuries. Every human being needs to develop the latent powers within him, that all the endowments which God has bestowed upon him may be fostered. God has imparted to everyone one primary gift which he needs to develop. His fulfillment depends upon this gift. When man develops his radio, he will be able to enter into communication with the advanced beings from the invisible world. When man develops within himself the organs for breathing in the ether, he will be able to live in the ethereal world. Many secrets exist within nature which remain locked away because people are not yet ready for them. People of talent and of genius are collective beings. The time will come when every one of you will ascend to this level. Man needs to be prepared. The hour for each will strike, and he must be prepared to greet this hour. When you meet a person of talent or genius, rejoice. After him, many more will come. Your turn among them will come as well. A great future is written out for you. The earth enters into new conditions. The new in the world is coming. Be prepared for the new conditions. We wish to live on earth the life of the angels. We want too much. Their world is far away, but we are moving toward it. There is nothing more beautiful than to have inner peace, to be connected with all brothers living on the earth, and to converse with the most intelligent people. One brother asked, "Will this happen?" The Master answered, "This already exists." Relative and absolute reality. In a conversation, one brother asked about the relative and absolute realities. The Master said, "The caterpillar is the materialist, its cocoon the idealist, and the butterfly the realist." I use these words symbolically. Imagine a room in which someone lives. This room is closed up on all sides. The room is illuminated. The person who is in this room is exploring it. He is the materialist. Another person makes a hole in the wall and explores what is outside. This is the idealist. The realist is the one who freely walks everywhere, inside and outside the room. When we say that matter is not real, we merely imply that the material things are the result. This result could not exist if at least 2 to 3 powers were not at work. When observing the material, one should not separate it from the divine and the spiritual, because the material is a manifestation, a result of the spiritual. The material and the spiritual are one and the same thing. They are 2 currents of the whole life. If you are not able to understand the material life, you are not able to understand the spiritual and vice versa. We consider what we see to be reality. This is correct, but what we do not see, that too is reality. The world beyond and this world are one and the same world. This one is a small sector, a small projection of the other world. The angelic world is more real than ours. How is the universe created? This question in and of itself is irrelevant, because the universe exists. But when I say this, I imply the real world, the physical world, is but a shadow. When one speaks about the creation of the physical world, this is not creation, but a manifestation. Because the real light which exists eternally is beyond the physical world. The shadow can appear, disappear, then appear again, and so on. We now live in a transient world. Someone sleeps for 7 hours. He dreams that he has graduated from the university and has received his diploma, has been appointed as a teacher, and then awakens. How is it possible for him to complete his education and become a teacher within 7 hours? In the dream, this is considered to be a reality, but actually it is an illusion. On earth, illusory things exist, and when we awaken to the world of reality, we see all that exists on earth is illusory. Not that it is an illusion, but is less real. The world as God perceives it is the world of absolute reality. The way in which the most conscious people perceive it, this is the relative reality. In the mountains. Today, with our beloved Master, we went on a springtime hike which we all loved so much. We departed at early dawn, climbed the steep path while it was still cool, and met the rising sun high up in the mountain. We performed our exercises, after which we sat down near the brook that flows through the young greenery and the flowers. One could feel the closeness of the mountain peaks, from which a fresh coolness was descending upon us. The big snowdrifts were shining in the sun here and there. Everyone was feeling the pulse of the great life, the surge coming from nature. In conversation, the Master said, "When climbing in a high place, because the path varies and there are flat and steep places, all organs are activated, and man becomes healthier. In the early spring, observe the violet color of the snow on the mountain slopes. This is a result of the influx of prana. This is its color. Many people are climbing the mountains today. The young generation in Bulgaria visiting the mountains is to be relied upon. The high peaks are dynamic centers. They represent a reservoir of power, which will be utilized in the future. The mountain peaks are connected with the Earth's internal forces and the cosmic forces as well. At the same time, they are pumps which suck up toxins. If you feel indisposed, climb a high mountain and you will feel refreshed and invigorated. When we built the fountains in the Rila Mountains, we instilled in them the new ideas. Whosoever drinks from this water will perceive something from these ideas. There was a time when elephants, mastodons, lions, and tigers walked here on the Balkan Peninsula. All of the mountains of the Balkan Peninsula are undergoing certain leveling, and after a time, they will become fields, while the fields will become mountains. In the past, Vitasha Mountain was higher than at present. When you go into a mountain, remain in that place to which you feel drawn. When impure people try to go to pure places, they are not admitted there. The weather worsens, and they are forced to return home. If you are walking in the mountains, keep only one thought within yourself. If 3 or 4 thoughts come into your mind, you will stumble. Never think about bad or negative things while in the mountains. Places exist where when one sits down, he receives inspiration. There is a great benefit to such sitting down. Ideas and thoughts exist which manifest at an elevation of 3,000 meters. Others manifest at an elevation of 3,200 or 4,000 meters. Every one of you can verify this law. Should you climb the Himalayas to a certain elevation, and through your mind pass those ideas characteristic for an elevation of 5,000 meters, then you can say that the elevation at which you are standing is 5,000 meters. For example, a meat-eating person climbs in the mountains, and suddenly the idea not to consume meat any longer comes into his mind. This indicates that he has reached the elevation at which this idea was born. This elevation is 8,000 meters. When one reaches the elevation of 9,000 meters, one forgets his nationality. The higher you climb, the more sublime are the ideas which occupy your mind. Beautiful are those places where no man has set foot. Seek out such places. There exists in some places in the Rila Mountains some of this primordial element. And should a man walk in such a place, he will rejuvenate instantly. Someday, you should walk in such a place. At that moment, a new epoch in your life will begin. Living vortices exist in nature which transmit the sublime forces to man. If we climb a mountain in order to perceive what God wants of us, such climbing is meaningful. And when we descend into the valley in order to bring to the people whatever we have received on the mountain, this descent is meaningful. We have come to the mountain to enjoy the domain of our Father. Since you have come, forget everything old. A transformation in your outlook needs to take place. The one who comes to the mountain should set himself free of a bad habit, shortcoming, or pain. The divine world is far more beautiful than the most beautiful mountains, than the most beautiful places in nature here. All spiritual centers in the Rila Mountains, the Alps, the Himalayas, and other mountains are interconnected. In the Rila Mountains, great diversity exists. There are places there upon which no man has ever set foot. Thousands of years ago, the sentient advanced beings knew that we would go to the 7 lakes in the Rila Mountains, and they prepared them for us. The Rupate peaks are beautiful. At this point, there's a footnote, which reads, Rupate, name given by the master to a section of the northwest part of the Rila Mountains. Elenivra, Orlovets, Duglav, Zlizab, Popava and Golyam Kupen. They look like a big city. The Rupite are the most sacred places in the Rila Mountains. The word Rupi has its root Ru, which means the dwelling place of the spirit. In the Rupite, there is an esoteric school. The region from the river Beli Iskar to the Rupite, the so-called Skakavtsi, is the sanctuary of the Rila Mountains. Inaccessible places exist within it. The oldest esoteric school is situated within the Rila Mountains. The Himalayas are newer mountains. From the Himalayas, initiates are coming to the Rila Mountains to study. There is an ancient university in the Rila Mountains. The initiates from the Himalayas come to study in the libraries of Rila. A school exists in the Alps as well, but the oldest school in the world is in the Rila Mountains. The beings who dwell there have ethereal bodies. Knowledge is stored in the Rila Mountains. The cultures of Egypt and India originated from the Rila Mountains and later became widespread. The future holds much to be learned. What is the significance of these sacred centers? They are working for the new culture. These luminous beings dwelling in the mountains do not appear to people, except when people have love for them. The Master pointed to the great valleys and peaks in front of us. and said, "If your eyes were open, you would see pictures here from 1,001 nights. Sentient beings are present here. You should make contact with them. Address them and greet them with the following words: Luminous brothers, we greet you and desire that God blesses you." Then they will answer you, "What you have said to us, let it come back to you as well." The Divine Teaching. We were in the mountains with the Master. Someone asked what the new teaching is about. The Master answered, "The new teaching comes now into the world to bring the new culture and to reveal the inner side of life. The new teaching comes from the invisible world and will come to be established. There are things that have been tried millions of times, and now they need to be applied. The teaching of the Brotherhood of Light is founded upon their testing. The principles, laws, and methods of the divine teaching can be tried. How can you prove that an object is sweet, or to what extent is it sweet? Can you describe its sweetness alone? You can, but with that alone, it will still not be understood. Yet if you taste it, you will immediately gain knowledge about its sweetness. This means that the experiment is authoritative. Man needs to try things, to test them, that he may understand reality. Love brings life. Wisdom brings light. Truth brings freedom. These are the fundamental principles of the new life, of the new teaching. This teaching is not our own. It is divine. First, it is applied in the physical, then the spiritual, and lastly, the divine. What is the new teaching? A method for managing one's obsolete habits. What does the new teaching consist of? The correction of the transgressions of past centuries. The new teaching which I profess has the purpose of eradication of all conditions for error and disease in the human existence. At least 75% of all diseases need to vanish. If the new teaching cannot do this, then where is its power? If it cannot balance the forces of the mind and the heart, if it cannot give people peace, then what can one expect of it? If the teaching which is being taught to you gives meaning to your life, gives you health, wisdom, illumination, and sets you free, then follow it. It is that teaching which every soul bears. It directs man to the real life. There is no teaching of Mr. Duno. There is only the divine teaching which has been made known to me. It is the great teaching of life. I have been acquainted with it since time immemorial. Christ said, "What I speak, my Father has taught me. As for myself, I speak nothing." This means that he did not preach his own teaching. The divine teaching is recognizable. It brings joy, peace, light, and every sublime inspiration. Which teaching is right? The teaching that gives expansiveness to the mind, the heart, the will, and gives impulse for growth. This teaching is divine. People exist who are paying off an old debt and are not concerned with the present. Power lies not in the old, but in the new understanding. People need to understand that yesterday's knowledge cannot help them. Today, a new knowledge, a new science is needed for the people. In the future, people will have the need for new ideas. I will give you an example. A colonel had an aide who was a well-read, erudite man with a science degree. The colonel always treated him abusively. The aide endured this. Once, while traveling, the colonel fell from his horse and dislocated his foot. The aide said to him, "I know how to heal this." "How do you know?" "I have graduated. I have knowledge in this field." He fixed the injured foot. Since then, the aide became equal to a colonel because the colonel understood with what kind of a man he was working. He never abused him again and did not permit anyone else to abuse him either. After the colonels understand what knowledge we possess, they will come to study with us. They will correct their relationship with us. The new teaching will travel to people like air, like water, like the light. When someone asks what the new teaching is, give them the high ideal to read. At this point, the footnote reads, "The high ideal, Vysokiat ideal," lecture given by the master to the general esoteric class in 1923, Sofia. First published in Bulgarian in Sofia, 1923. Published in English by Sunrise Press and Books, USA, 1969. Continuing on. In it is shown in a practical manner what nature's method is. The deep mystical questions will follow later. What is the new teaching? To eat without a sword hanging over your head. The footnote here reads, this phrase comes from a story about Damocles who had to eat his food with a sword hanging over him, which was tied up by a single hair. Some old people have lost their teeth, and when apples and pears are offered to them, they cannot chew them. People exist who do not have teeth for the new ideas. One needs to give them baby food. The new needs to be given to the people a little at a time. Whosoever declares himself against the divine will lose favorable conditions. Everyone who does not desire to serve the truth, justice, the good, who goes against the service of God, will receive retribution. Our friends should exert care in their lives and hold only to the sacred, the real, that they will not suffer. All who listen, prepare yourselves for the new and teach the others as well. Now you need to work with a profoundly awakened awareness that you may serve and work for God. And while working in this way, be glad that you are fulfilling God's will and everything else will work out by itself. We need to keep the eternal fire. From your candles, all people will light their candles. Some people threatened us. We will chase you out of Bulgaria. When it comes to banishment, who is it that you will drive out? This land is not the Bulgarians. It belongs to God. England does not belong to the English. It is God's. Our brotherhood has passed through the greatest obstacles. The invisible world considers our spiritual settlement, Izgrev, to be an oasis. At this point, the footnote reads, Izgrev, meaning sunrise. From 1927 to 1956, a settlement was built near the Bulgarian capital of Sofia as a spiritual intentional community of Beinsa Duno's followers. There he gave regular lectures to his disciples and Sunday sermons open to the public. Continuing on. At Izgrev, you have the most favorable conditions for coming to know and applying the divine teaching. There is no better place on earth than Izgrev. Izgrev has the most favorable combination of conditions, a unique combination. I would like that Izgrev be a model so that whoever comes here will begin to understand what the new teaching is. During the evacuation, you went into the country in order to appreciate the value of Izgrev. A disharmony in our brotherhood is mirrored in the world situation. For this reason, peace and harmony must reign at Izgrev. Bulgarian folk songs. The master worked for years on Bulgarian folk song until he restored its purity of melody, rhythm, and text. In this way, he gave a number of models of folk songs. One day at lunch, a brother performed a few of them. In connection with that, the master said, "Bulgarian music is very original, but within it there is incertitude, a latent wavering. Few people sing the old folk songs well. Now a kind of modernization exists in them, through which they have lost important things. The Bulgarians sing well, but they lack performance skills. We need to work in this regard. There is a need for change in the consciousness of the Bulgarians in respect to music. There exist some beautiful Bulgarian songs. Bulgarian music moves within a closed circle. A great pessimism is found in it. The Bulgarian uses traditional instruments, kaval, gadulka, gaida, and ocarina, flute. At this point, the footnotes explain these instruments. Kaval is a wooden chromatic end-blown flute, traditionally played throughout the Balkans and Anatolia, primarily associated with mountain shepherds. Gadulka, an ancient bowed-stringed instrument also known as the rebec, and gaida, a goatskin bagpipe. The Bulgarians cannot complain about a lack of musicians. The folk songs, revolutionary and ancient, have had historical significance at one time, but now they have become obsolete. Songs that awaken the mind are needed today. We want to show what the Bulgarian song should be. New ideas need to be instilled in the folk songs, and the character of the lyrics should be changed as well. Many of the ideas in the lyrics of our folk songs are antiquated and obsolete. With regard to this, great work is imminent. I have chosen as an example two folk songs, Tatuncho and Blessed Be. The lyrics for these two songs are completely negative. Negative characteristics are given in them. The master invited a brother to perform these songs with old lyrics and then with new lyrics given by the master so that the difference could be seen. The master said, "Sing these songs to the Bulgarian people with the old lyrics and the new, and then they will see what the new moral values are." The old folk songs were given during the old culture of winter. The revival of the folk songs with the lyrics which we give now represents the beginning of spring, which is already within the Bulgarian. Entering into the great world. The summer rain passed through like a whisper, cleansing and refreshing the air. One could breathe with ease. Above the valley appeared the bright arc of a rainbow. We gathered around our beloved master under the big walnut tree in front of the house. The pungent fragrance of its leaves hung in the moist air. Large droplets from the rain were still dripping down from its branches. Someone asked, "Master, you are constantly speaking to us about love as something new and unknown to us. Yet we think that we have a perception of it." The master said, "People cannot comprehend real love because the organs through which it is perceived have not yet been developed in human beings. Not all silkworms form a cocoon in one and the same day. In this same way, each person will come into divine love at different times. At the moment, unconditional love is accessible only to people of a higher evolution. People of today do not understand love. It is a power which is not yet known to them. By reading the New Testament, you will see that because of the difficulties faced in life, the love of many will cool down. That is to say, many will not have the strength to endure. To begin loving someone means elevating him to a great height. To stop loving him means dropping him down from that height. There is no philosophy here. This is the nature of human love. Some people are asking what this love that I am speaking about is. This is the infinite love, not yet manifested love. God abides in it. He manifests himself through it. Life has validity in the infinite and the unmanifested. Divine love is an infinite world. When I speak about love, I am not referring to human love. Love is something sublime, which only few have experienced. Until human beings come into real love, they experience sentiments. People can be truly loved only as souls. When you come to love someone as a soul, you will not pay attention to his weaknesses and faults, just as a mother does not pay attention to her child's mistakes. If you succeed in attaining this state, you will have resolved one of the most important tasks in your life. You will have attained the level of fulfilling God's will. A distinctive quality of divine love is that what you attain through love cannot be taken away from you. In addition to this, the further away you are from the one you love, the nearer you feel to this person and the stronger your love is. With human love, it is the opposite. Only when you are close to the one you love is your love strong, and when you are far away, it disappears. You are still in the shadow of love. People are in need of this unusual love. A great and sacred life exists of which you have no knowledge. Something great and glorious exists for which you have not the slightest idea. Through divine love, you will enter into this great world. The new relationships. The Master said, "In the spiritual world, one never criticizes. Why do you need to look for other people's faults? This is like poisoning. Enter the house of a person as a friend and look for the treasure he has inside himself. Do not concern yourself with evil. When you tell someone that he is not good, you do him harm. Maleficent thoughts are like decaying meat, which disperses its bad smell far away. Everything that begins to smell bad is a presage of death. Every negative thought is an omen of death. Speak about the positive things in life, not about the negative. What does it mean to speak or think badly about someone? It means that you prepare bad food, which will make him sick. When you get up in the morning, say, 'God, teach me to think of my brothers and sisters as you think of them.' To think well of people is to be strong. It is important to maintain a good opinion about everyone. One of the most dangerous situations in life is to see the negative qualities of those around you. Everyone needs to concentrate his attention on the unchangeable, the good, and the divine in man. To see someone's flaws is not science. In my opinion, it is great science to see the good in a person and to address that. What do you gain if you know other people's faults? When you come to the perfect life, you will not reprove anyone. It would be good to form a group of 10 people who would not see people's faults. Do not hold in your mind someone's defects and faults, because you will become defiled and will lose. To speak badly of someone is not moral. It is moral to not allow any negative thought into your mind. One of the sisters was telling me about the faults of one of the brothers. I said to her, Your conclusions are not correct. This person is not bad. Until a fruit is ripe, it is tart and bitter. Yet when it ripens, it becomes sweet. You should wait for people to ripen. If someone has made a mistake, do not worry, but say, "The fruit is not yet ripe. We will wait until it ripens." The negative features of a person cannot characterize him because the human being is in a process of development. One day, nothing will be left of these negative characteristics. How can you criticize a flower bud for not having blossomed yet? The time has not come for it to blossom. Do not tell someone that he is not a good person, but say, "The painting is still unfinished." If you would like to have a correct relationship with a person, you need to keep in your mind his good characteristics and not deviate from them. Then goodness will manifest in him. The one who loves you sees everything in you as good. What is love? The one who loves you does not see any faults in you. Love does not see faults. When people see faults in others, when they judge them, they act according to the law of human justice. For thousands of years, people have lived according to the law of human justice. Not only has the world not improved, but the earth is covered with dead bones. Even if you do not love someone, try to find positive features in him, and as a result, you will begin to love him. Many years ago, a young woman, very intelligent, came to me and told me how she regarded people. She accepted all people well with a good disposition. She would first attempt to find the best feature in a person. Then she would hold on to it, and after that, she would forget whatever negatives she saw. She had made the following observation. When she held the good characteristics of a person in her mind, that person would open to her. You meet one of your friends and say, "I know my friend well." No matter how well you know him, there is always something new and some good feature in his character which you will discover today. He should do the same regarding you. Only in such a way do you and he achieve something precious in your life. The price of love needs to increase. If you cannot find one good feature in the person you love every day, your friendship will soon be over. That is the way it was thousands of years ago, and so it is at present. If this does not happen, I can determine after how many years your friendship will end. If you would like to reform someone, do not hold on to his faults. If you keep his mistakes in your mind, you will never correct him. The only way to reform somebody is to keep in mind the good and the noble in this person. The true human being. This morning we climbed the solitary peak of the mountain. We performed morning exercises high up in a clearing surrounded by rocks. The sun suffused the earth with a joyful light, warming the rocks and enveloping everything with radiance. As we talked, a question about the true human being arose. The Master said, "There is a world that you do not see. It is necessary for your eyes to be opened in order to perceive it. You are a shadow of that world. You, its shadow, need to believe that there is one real world from which you originate. You are only a projection of that reality. There is one inner light in man. This light is the divine origin which awaits for the time of its awakening. Man is something more than his mind, his heart, and his will. These last are servants of the human spirit. Man in his origin, in his essence, is something great. If you love people, if you believe in them, and not in that which they manifest externally, you would see how great the human being is. You say, man is a being who thinks, but man is more than his thoughts. Man is neither his thoughts, nor his feelings, nor his actions. Man is divine. Man possesses, hidden within, all the possibilities for a sentient life. What you have lost, you will find. When? When you realize that God has implanted untold riches within you. All possibilities exist for a person to become an artist, poet, scientist, and so on. Malice in people is on the surface. It is something external. The divine in man is unconquerable. No matter which trial a person passes through, in the end, he will return to his original state. When someone brings you a precious stone wrapped in a few layers and placed in a box, the first thing you do is open the box, free the stone from all its wrappings, and after you observe it carefully, appraise the stone. The precious stone is the divine in the human being that you need to liberate from its wrappings. Trust in the divine within you. The only genuine thing in us is the divine. It is eternal and unchangeable. He who wants to evolve rightly must accept the existence of the divine cause within himself as an axiom. With its assistance, you can develop your talents and abilities. Trust in the divine within all people. Upon this rock, you will build your great future. A person can manifest himself in his wholeness only when he realizes that God abides within him and in his fellow man. Would it not be nice to perceive the sublime world within your neighbor? When everyone becomes convinced that the divine dwells within others, then the correct relationships among people will reign. The Eternal Home. The summer night was descending upon the mountain. Crickets were chirring in the meadows. The noise of human activity quieted down. From the sky came the last radiance of the passing day. We were sitting around our beloved Master and talked. He told us, man on the earth is not what he truly is. In order to say that someone is ideal, you need to perceive what he is in the causal world. When you perceive a person in the physical, in the astral, or in the mental world, you can always find some flaw in him. When you come, however, to the causal world, you will see there the human soul which does not have any flaw. It is said that God dwells within human beings. God does not dwell within the human body, but dwells within his soul. The human soul, which dwells in the causal world, does not dwell continuously within the physical body, and as a result, one often feels empty in the physical world. Man, with his ordinary consciousness, lives in the physical world, and the human soul visits him only from time to time for 1/100th of a second. Then a person feels complete, rich, and inspired. During that time, he receives impulses and directives for his work. After some time, the soul visits him again. As long as a person can maintain this connection with his soul, with, in other words, the divine within, he will have the desire to work. When he interrupts this connection, his forces will abandon him. His life will become meaningless, and tribulations will follow one after another. When man lives an outward life, he is not completely incarnate with his body. Something is missing. As a result, he is not a master of his conditions. After thousands of years, when man is ready, the soul will come to dwell forever in his body. That is the true incarnation. Then man will become a master of his life. He will become immortal. At present, the body is still not perfect. Therefore, the soul remains outside of the body. There is no home for the human soul. The same is valid for the human spirit. From now on, a temple is being built in which God will come to dwell. You feel it when God visits you. You feel his presence and his influence. Then something inside of you ignites, and you are ready to reconcile with the whole world. When this moment has passed, you say, "Was that reality? Was that only a dream?" There is a beautiful inner side of the human being. You have not seen it yet. There are events, though rare, when someone's face becomes illuminated and others see him as they have not yet seen him until now. Even when people know what they are in reality, they still need to be humble. What interests you in a poet? The poet, too, has eyes, ears, and a nose, as do other people. You are interested because of what this person has created. What interests you in a violinist? You are interested in what he plays. From every individual, light emanates. Everyone is a divine potential. The divine which someone bears is what interests you. We are under a delusion. We think that we have seen Ivan, Stoyan, and so on. You have not seen Ivan. You have seen his car, his airplane. Someone asks me, "What flaws do I have?" I say to him, "You know your flaws. I will tell you what good qualities you have." Human nature is silt, which can deceive you. You need to wash away this silt in order to see that there is something precious in the human being. There are extraordinary thoughts which are like precious stones. Who perceives these beautiful thoughts which are hidden deep within the human soul? There are clear-sighted people who perceive them. Man needs to abide by the laws that are inscribed within his soul. This is his life's mission. Very often we have been taught what we have known, yet have forgotten. We come from a more sublime world. There we know many things. When we come to the earth, we learn them as new, but in reality, this study is a recollection. You will say of someone that he is sinful, of someone else that he is bad. Neither one of these is true. These are temporary manifestations which do not determine the human character. When bad people come home in the evening, they say, "We do not live rightly. We should not live like this." There is some regret in them. The true man can be recognized when his soul awakens and he begins to think about God. Then he resolves easily his tasks, helping himself and his fellow man as well. All negative characteristics in man have the property of the snow. When the divine comes, they melt, they disappear. We have put on masks, and we do not recognize each other. When you were a child, you had on one mask, and now you have the mask of an adult, or as an old person. That you become older, that is a mask. Why do you come with masks? In order to be free. Reality itself, life itself, is invisible. There, another vision is necessary. Therefore, reality remains unknown to people, and only the forms that have been made manifest are known. Do not say, "Nothing will become of me." Thus you violate the divine plan. Say instead, "God will uplift me. He will fulfill his plan for me." God has created all beings. They are necessary for God. You do not know what will happen with some beings in the future. In the plants and in the animals, there exists something noble, which is similar to that in humans. There is something incorruptible in them. In addition to ordinary life, an extraordinary also exists in them, which has not been made manifest. The invisible world. One sister asked where the departed souls are now. The Master said, "The three worlds, the physical, the spiritual, and the divine, are one world." When you are asked, "Where is the world beyond?" say, "The three worlds are one." The stomach, lungs, and brain correspond to these three worlds. Man carries these three worlds within himself. Today, there are more ways to explain the spiritual world. We have radio waves. Through them, one can understand how it is possible to transmit a thought from one person to another, and the spiritual world becomes more understandable. When a person dies, he changes his place without disappearing. Someone thinks that his friends, his relatives, die. This person lives in the transient world. When someone dies, only the assets of the company die, but the company itself remains. Why are you crying for your departed daughter? She is in another world. You can talk to her. She will write to you. She writes to her mother, "Mother, the world where I am now is very beautiful. Also, there are universities here and professors who teach us." The world beyond is more real than the physical world. You have a friend whom you love. One day he dies. You ask yourself, where has he gone? Where is his consciousness? Your friend is alive. Nothing is lost in the world. Only the relationships change. When man dies, he passes from one state into another. In fact, there is no aging. When the creative forces project from this world into a more sublime world, the form is destroyed. Here there are no conditions. The form can be destroyed, but the consciousness never. Do not be afraid of death. No one can kill another. The most dreadful thing comes when the human consciousness is not awakened after death. He lives in darkness and deep sleep. In order to be saved from that darkness, nature sends him suffering. Someone says that God has arranged for man to die. This is a misinterpretation of the truth. Death is the result of not understanding the great divine laws. When someone dies, this resembles the following. A person is traveling by car. The car breaks down in the middle of the journey. When he realizes that the car is beyond repair, he starts to walk. He realizes that he can also travel without a car. The same happens after death. A woman came to me. She was crying that her husband had died. I said to her, "I see your husband near to you. He is happy now." When someone passes beyond, he takes with him the essential of his brain. Man has a material and an etheric brain. At death, man leaves his material brain and takes with him the etheric one. It is the etheric brain that organizes matter, In other words, man takes the valuable thing with him. People of today deny life after death. I am sorry for those people of genius whose disembodied spirits haunt the funeral place. Some rich man wanders after his death, moving about his big house which he has built, regardless that the house is now occupied by other people. With such ideas, he will not evolve. What do people know about those departed to the world beyond? You call for your father, asking him what is in the world beyond. He does not know anything. You call for your mother. She says that she sees nothing, darkness all around. This is understandable. As much as they knew on earth about the world beyond, that much will they know about it after their departure, at least in the beginning. There are some departed who perceive and understand, but they are few. They have worked on the earth consciously, and they continue to work in the world beyond. The person who does not live rightly will find himself after his death, at first, in complete darkness, at the beginning only with an unadorned, plain, bare, stripped consciousness. This is hell. After death, everyone will be convinced that there exists another world as well. Our departure for the world beyond is an unrelenting law. This law is valid for the present phase of human evolution. After death, when one begins to become aware of his error, he will gradually begin to organize himself and will come again to the earth as a small, defenseless child. When a person dies, he is still in contact with his physical body. He has been buried, and yet he sees how his relatives cry at his tomb. The one who has committed crimes, his consciousness remains connected to his body after death and is present for some time during the decomposition of his body in the tomb. And afterward, in his next incarnation on earth, when he is taught again how to rob and lie, he says, "Have you been where I have been? Because of that, I cannot steal or lie any more." Those who have departed to the world beyond already have vibrations of a different nature. There is nothing dense in them, similar to water in a cooking pot, which when brought to boiling is transformed into vapor. The one who has departed to the world beyond differs in his vibrations. I was told about one brother that he was not alive. I performed some investigations. I compared his vibrations with the vibration of another whom I knew had departed for the world beyond, and I observed that there was a difference. I said, "This brother is alive. He has not departed." When you go to the world beyond, you will not forget the earth because you have related souls here. You will feel their needs, and because you will be rich there, you will come to help. Someone has departed. His relatives give a luncheon in his memory. To give a luncheon, this is all right, but nobody prays for the departed. Then he comes to me and says, "They gave a luncheon for me, but no one prayed for me." It is necessary to send the departed souls a good thought. Our prayers help them. Our good thoughts toward the departed, this is food for them. The juices contained within the thoughts and feelings, they feed them. A person, when he is departed, can manifest himself for a while through other people. For example, he can manifest within someone for a year, within others for 2 years, 3 years, or 10 years. Still, sometimes, he manifests through a person for only a few hours. One example, I was in the city of Varna when 2 of our brothers from Sofia passed away. In the morning, around 10 a.m., I was visited by two boys of 18 years of age from the villages. They stayed with me for 2 hours. One of the departed brothers was witty in character. One of these boys was expressing himself in such a way. The other departed brother was also witty, but in a specific manner. Such was the behavior of the other boy. I did not ask the boys where they came from, what their names were, because the disposition of the departed would have been destroyed. The person who has departed prematurely stays to work on the earth until a time comes when it was planned for him to depart. Artists, musicians, poets, philosophers, and so on are sent here to earth to be in training. Afterward, in the world beyond, they will perform their true work as artists, musicians, poets, philosophers, and so on. In other words, in the world beyond, they will continue to work in the same field, but with greater opportunities and under better conditions. The entire earthly life of a person is recorded, and when he goes to the world beyond, he will be shown his entire life as a movie, as a child, as an adult, as an old one. A bud blooms into a flower. A fragrance comes out of the flower. Then the flower chalice drops off, and only the small seed inside the fruit is left. Where are the bud and the flower? Everything is in the fruit. The bud is the first phase, the flower is the second phase, and the fruit is the third phase. Inside the fruit is the seed. This has an analogy with the human life. The world is full of evolving souls from the world beyond who need to be enlightened. In our spiritual gatherings, there are present around each one of us many undeveloped souls from the world beyond who want to evolve. Sometimes you are in a pessimistic mood. It is from those souls who would like to be helped. There are souls who do not know that they are departed. As the living are attracted toward the fruit gardens, the well springs, so the departed souls of our relatives are attracted to our spiritual meetings, prayers, and lectures. For them, these meetings, prayers, and lectures represent fruit gardens and well springs. One of our brothers who had departed for the world beyond let us hear from there and told us about his condition. He said, "From the world beyond, we are sent to work, to help others. You work the whole day over some who are incarnated on the earth. You go from place to place. You teach people, but only a few understand you. You visit someone who lives on the earth, whisper to him from inside as to how to act. Yet he waves you away. He does not want to listen. And you come back indisposed, dissatisfied. If you do not want to help someone on earth, you lose." A departed soul from the world beyond will be sent to a pub to influence some good person who drinks to stop drinking. Another departed will be sent to some big house where the wife is squandering money and tormenting her husband. The departed soul will whisper to her not to spend so much money, to be more modest. After the departure, one's existence is a continuous ascent to the higher worlds, according to the level of awakening of his consciousness. And when he goes into the higher worlds, a curtain lifts in front of him in order for him to enter the divine world and to perceive the great reality. The divine world is in such harmony that when you enter it, you will forget all your difficulties and suffering. Things there have meaning and depth. Everything lives in love. There exist such arts as you cannot imagine, and such variety that a special work exists for each and every one, which he will like. When you live with joy in the divine world, you can study without becoming bored. Life there is not monotonous. The spiritual and divine worlds are 1,000 times more beautiful than the physical one. The prophets have visited the world beyond, but the world beyond has changed from that time until now as well. The two fundamental laws. We welcomed the sunrise on the open clearings. We said our short morning prayer and did the morning exercises. The Master said, "Love for God and fulfillment of His will are the two fundamental laws of life. To abide in God means to never go against the divine with your thoughts, feelings, or actions. Man must serve God above all things. The scripture tells us, 'Do not be slaves to people.' The footnote here reads, see also 1 Corinthians 7:23. One authority exists in the world, and this authority is God. Someone believes in God. This means nothing in and of itself. Of what use would it be if you were to believe in a head of state, yet did not abide by his laws? The one who is blind cannot see anything. The one who does not think is mentally blind, and the one who does not accomplish God's will is spiritually blind. You ask, what will happen to us? Visit the poor sections of the city. Visit the cemeteries. Visit the hospitals. Visit the surgical wards in the hospitals. Visit the battlefields, and then you will see what will happen to you if you do not fulfill God's will. A law states, when man does not fulfill God's will, he makes a place for the darkness within himself. That is to say, he becomes vulnerable to the negative forces in the world. The Great Universal Brotherhood. We celebrated the Feast of Spring Equinox in the mountains. We had been there for a couple of days, staying in the small mountain hostel at the foot of the peak Ostritsa. At this point there is a footnote. Ostritsa, a peak in the Vitisha mountain near the village of Marchaivo. Every morning we climbed the peak where we met the sunrise, prayed, and performed our exercises. After that, we would choose some sunny clearing and sit around our dear Master. One morning, a question arose about the brothers of light who guide humankind. The Master said, "There is one divine community. There is one divine nation. I advise you to bind yourselves strongly to it in order to perceive the new light in your minds, hearts, and souls. I say to everyone, we will triumph. God is with us. There is no force in the world which can oppose the great principles which we serve. All good, honest, just, and wise people, all men, women, and children are with us. All these people who are supporting the three great principles of love, wisdom, and truth, independent of which church or party they belong to, are with us. We are asked, who are you and how many are you? We are one great brotherhood, which the world has never seen before, a brotherhood which has branches on earth, in heaven, and in the whole universe. One who is serving God is a citizen of this great universal brotherhood, which we call the Brotherhood of Divine Love, of Divine Wisdom, of Divine Truth. You will say, we would like to become members of this brotherhood. Yet I would like you to become students of this brotherhood. To study with God means to pass through the schools of the Universal Brotherhood of Light. The best professors, the best teachers are in this school. Each one of you needs to find it. This school is not similar to our universities. In it, there are no hypotheses or theories. When you finish this school, you will be given difficult missions which you need to fulfill correctly. For example, you will be given the task to go among fierce peoples and underdeveloped cultures. After that, you will be sent among both good and maleficent people, among the plants and the animals, and you will be watched as to how you interact with them and how they accept you. Upon completion, you will be given one precious and one common stone, and they will observe what you do with them. If you use both correctly, the common and the precious stone, the Brothers of Light will accept you as a member. They are very strict toward everyone because each will be a master of their powers. Once they accept you among them, they will help you always. Great prospects, great future, and great accomplishments are ahead of you. John the Baptist, who came a little while before Christ, was familiar with the divine knowledge, the divine teaching. He had not been an ordinary man, that is, ignorant. He had been initiated. He had studied in one of the ancient schools. The new in the world has always been given by this great brotherhood. The Brothers of Light brought the good into the world through Christ. If 2,000 years ago Christ did not come, what would be the status of humankind? All the good in the world has been introduced by the Brothers of Light, who have worked for the uplifting of nations. Those people within whose souls and spirits God lives are the great souls, people of genius. Teachers of humankind who have given the highest manifestation in music, poetry, art, in all fields of life in general. These are the souls who help humankind to progress. This or that nation, this or that person, are not the factors for the human historical process of development, but the invisible world, the forces which conduct the events, namely the members of the Brotherhood of Light. The only leadership in the world is that of the great universal brotherhood. All other people, public figures, writers, priests, ministers, are servants of the Brotherhood of Light. All culture and justice in the world is quickened by the great power of the Brotherhood. The great universal Brotherhood is not something fictional. It is neither a church nor a cult. It is something alive and beyond these corrupted conditions in which people live. He who completes his evolution will enter into this universal brotherhood. Good people are inwardly connected with the Brotherhood of Light. A good person deposits whatever he acquires into the great brotherhood. We are sought after for the capital which we possess. There are people who have walked around the backyard of the Universal Brotherhood, but have never entered its sanctuary. What can a student know who has not listened to a single professor? Some say that in order to attain initiation, you need to go to India. You could have gone to India. You could even have passed tests without having become initiated. He who would like to be initiated can get this everywhere, in India as well as here. Members of the Brotherhood of Light know the laws of nature. They know how to condense and thin the matter of their bodies and transport themselves wherever they want. A brother is that one who from his leaving God until his return to God, and throughout all his reincarnations, has been your brother. Under all life's conditions, He has been ready to make a sacrifice for you, and he is doing all this not because of being forced, but with the great consciousness of that divine spirit who is living within his soul. If every one of you has this ideal, you will be students and servants of this great universal brotherhood. The divine teaching of the great brotherhood was not born now. It has existed since the beginning of the creation of the world. It has existed ever since the universe existed. The Brotherhood of Light has taken part ever since the creation of the world, of the whole universe. Every member of this brotherhood is a manifestation of God. They have achieved this through hard work. If you study the lives of these brothers, you will see what they have sacrificed for the world. If someone could be found to portray their lives in a novel, you would follow their path. Until now, there has been no poet or writer who could write such a novel. Why? Because he could not find such beautiful images in either his mind or his heart. Only that person who can connect with the great brothers and follow their path can know this new philosophy of life. One brother asked, why is the expression brothers of light preferred to the expression advanced luminous beings? Because when you say brothers, it is understood that they are related to us, that they are our brothers. In some quite common events are hidden things that you do not suspect. You meet a person whom you consider to be ordinary, yet he is one of the luminous brothers. Will these luminous brothers appear among people in the world in the future? Some of them already have appeared. The angelic hierarchy leads humankind. Angels have representatives on earth. The school of the great universal brotherhood is on the sun. Every year, the brothers of light gather there. And representatives of the luminous brothers on earth have meetings as well. Where? On one high peak of the Himalayas. Where is this peak? I know it, but I cannot tell you. It is not allowed. It is then that the great brothers manifest their love toward the representatives on earth in all its fullness and energy, which is addressed toward the whole world as well. This energy causes the upliftment of religion, science, and the arts, for the reorganization of nations, for the improvement of order and administration. The enlightened and sublime days of our lives are due to the convocation of the brothers of light on the sun. When one of the brothers of light on earth receives consecration, that is, passes through initiation, he must pay attention to be sure that this takes place during the days of the solemn convocation on the sun, because it is then that the rays of the sun send something new to earth. One sister asked, could we visit the brothers of light where they are living? It is not a question of their not wanting you to visit, but that people are still not ready to understand the knowledge which is studied there. Moreover, they are not in physical bodies such as ours. They live in ethereal bodies. After some time, the great universal brotherhood will give some more support to humankind, and an epoch of light will come. There is one path in nature which no one can change. This plan will be applied and people will be free. One brother asked, did the movement of the Bogomils have a connection with our movement? The footnote here reads, Bogomils, an ascetic spiritual movement that arose in 10th century Bulgaria. The Bogomils were persecuted as heretics by both the Eastern Orthodox and Byzantine churches. Bogomil means dear to God. We have never been an outgrowth of any teaching. We are a wellspring which has come from God. Other streams have come out of us, but we have not come out of another stream. The bogomils have similar features to our stream because both the movement of the bogomils, as well as our own, came from one and the same great center of the universal brotherhood of light. In the past, we have manifested in one way. In the future, we will manifest much more perfectly. The Master. It was the longest day of the year. The sun was descending in the west, golden and content after being given generously to everyone. The rocks were warm. From the forest, a balsam aroma was rising. We had been seated around our dear Master on the top of the mountain. All around us, it was as clear and light as in paradise. While sitting in silence, one brother asked, "Master, tell us something about yourself, about your work." The Master was silent for a long time, then said, "I use a natural method. I do not say which ingredients the bread contains, but say, 'Eat this bread, and you will benefit.' He who wants to force his teaching upon people gives them water from a bottle, but instead, he should lead them to the source to obtain it from there. People say about me, 'You are a holy man.' Forget this. It is not important who I am. You need to be concerned with how you can best benefit from me. Be thankful to God that you have found this wellspring which is flowing, and as of myself, I do not speak anything." Someone asks, "Is this wellspring from God?" If you can benefit from this wellspring, it is indeed from God. I desire that those deeds of yours that have been worked upon shall begin to shine through. There is something unusual in the world, and this is the divine. I would like to acquaint you with it. This is what I am preaching about. In order to understand it, you need to step on the ground of love. I have no personal considerations. I would like to fulfill God's law. I speak and do only what God tells me. When God tells me to go somewhere, I know that people there need me. I would like to fulfill God's will as God has ordained it. May His name be sanctified. God has been so good to me that I would like to repay Him with all my gratitude. I would like that you, too, follow my example. Do you know me? Will you say that I have preached to you? Yet at present, I am only preparing you. You say that I know many things. This is true. I live simultaneously in this world and in the world beyond. When I go to the sun, I am traveling at a speed greater than that of light. At night, when I would like to study the worlds, I go out and visit where no human foot can step and no human eye can penetrate. After that, I come back again. I have a device with which one can observe the most remote of suns. Everyone can try these things. When? When you develop within yourselves the talents with which God has endowed your souls. In order to be able to accomplish that, you need awareness. I perform spiritual experiments which need special conditions. This is a science. This is an art, which can be passed on only to those who are ready to serve with love and selflessness. It is a delusion to think that it is possible to exist without a spiritual teacher. Without a spiritual teacher, the student can accomplish nothing. If you love your professor and he loves you too, he teaches you his knowledge and you understand him. If you do not love him, no matter how much he speaks to you, you cannot understand him. He can love you, but if you do not love him, he cannot pass on his knowledge to you. If you could apply 1/100th of this teaching, you would be fulfilled. I do not expect more than 1/100th. Today, all of you can be fulfilled. How? When you come to believe my words. To live with me for 1 year is sufficient in order to learn more than you would have had if you had only listened to me. If you desire to understand God's mercy, you will have to live with me for thousands of years in order for me to teach you and preach to you. This is not an easy task. When I go back to him who has sent me here, he will ask me, "Have you accomplished the task which I gave you?" If there should be something I had not finished, I would come again. If I should not finish my work the second time, I would come again and again until I would be told, "You have accomplished your mission well." If you are speaking about earthly love, I do not love you with this love. You say that I do not love you as your angels love you. You are wrong. There is no one on earth who loves your souls as I love them. I would like that you, too, would love human souls in this way. Someone asks me, "Do you know Christ?" I know him. I speak with him. I have spoken with him many times. In order for a great teacher to manifest himself, all sentient and conscious beings must be united within him. The king must wear the most humble of apparel in order to remain discreet. Some people would like to oppose the new ideas. This is what I will say. When the divine teaching is applied everywhere, a fire with a temperature of 35 million degrees centigrade will appear. This is the last plan given by God, which I have brought from the world above. Once one brother asked, "Master, why were you interned during 1917? The master said, "More than 30 years ago, I said that there would be a war in 1914 and that Germany would lose it. Later, I warned the government to sign a peace treaty as soon as possible, but instead they interned me. I said that a second world war was coming and also told them which cities would be destroyed. I was summoned to the Public Security Department of the police, and I told them, if I had wanted, I could not have come, but I respect the laws, and therefore I came. By following the present course, nothing will remain of Sophia. You violate God's laws, and you will see that I am not speaking from myself. And if I speak the truth, you will bear the consequences. Something terrible is coming for the Bulgarians." Now the same will happen with Bulgaria that has happened with a certain priest. He was traveling by horse and wagon when the horses became frightened. The wagon turned over, and the priest fell upon a molehill, and because the molehill was soft, he was not hurt. There was a stone nearby. If his head had hit the stone instead, he would have died. The same will happen with Bulgaria. Bulgaria will go through hardship, but as the priest, she will fall on a molehill and will pass through the hardships more easily. A big catastrophe had awaited Bulgaria. Great misfortunes would have come upon the country if I had not been able to help until now. If the people of Bulgaria had listened to me, if they had listened to the divine, Bulgaria could have been without even these hardships. I took upon myself 9/10 of the trials which had awaited Bulgarians. For them only 1/10 is left. Therefore, the Bulgarians will pass through more easily. Only God has the right over the remaining 1/10 of the trials of the Bulgarians. These cannot be reduced any more. One brother asked, "Master, last autumn you walked to the Vitisha mountain every day, independent of the weather. Why did you climb the mountain with such consistency?" The Master answered, "In order to build roads and bridges for divine justice to come into the world. In this way, I am building a new path, our path toward God." The truth. The one who is able to comprehend the law of love will be able to comprehend 1/3 of the one reality. The one who is able to comprehend the law of wisdom will be able to comprehend 2/3 of the one reality. And the one who is able to comprehend the law of truth will be able to comprehend the whole of the one reality. This is the one who will become a magi, one who is able to attain whatever he desires. He can take up his magical wand and resolve all the hardships in life. Some people are in their first stage of life, that is to say, love. One needs to begin with love. Others are in the second stage, wisdom. A few are in the third stage, truth. People will continue to suffer until that time when they are able to comprehend the laws of love, wisdom, and truth. What is truth? Truth is what makes love and wisdom accessible and comprehensible. To point out the transgressions of others, this is not truth. Truth offers resurrection. What brings resentment and death, this is not truth. Truth is what offers freedom. The one who is not truthful will continue to experience death and reincarnation. You have known the truth in another time, but you have forgotten. Truth abides within your souls. Learn to speak its language. Unless you know its language, truth cannot speak to you. It can speak only to those whose hearts are filled with love and whose minds are filled with light. When a person's heart is in discord, and when his mind is disturbed, he cannot perceive the truth. One brother asked, "What is the significance of the elimination of falsehood for human existence?" The one who lies brings suffering upon himself. No one who lies has advanced. Lying is the only thing which does not produce a gain. For example, if you pay someone with counterfeit money, you will be paid back with the same. In this way, a person brings suffering upon himself through falsehood. The one who lies is foolish because he does not comprehend the consequences. He may deceive and outwit you, but he does not understand that he will be discovered and will bear the consequences. Why should you not lie? That you may not die, that you may not lose the whole blessing of life. If truth does not abide in you, then life will not abide in you. Your lie may appear to be insignificant, inconsequential, but it carries immense negative consequences. Therefore, the invisible world forgives many transgressions and errors, but not falsehood. Falsehood is the most difficult error to forgive because its consequences are the most severe, and it carries within itself all other error. If you dwell in falsehood, you will be as one who is blind, mute, and deaf to the truth. With truthfulness, you always gain, and with falsehood, you always lose. At first, your loss may appear to be imperceptible, but falsehood has its destructive effect. For example, you tell a lie and later, when you return home, either you will break an expensive glass or your wife or your child will become ill.
The lies of a person cannot remain concealed. They will always be found out. Even the least lie over time will cause a person to go astray. The word lie contaminates. It is toxic. The use of this word should be avoided as much as possible. Instead, one can say that the truth has been stretched, or that the truth has not been presented rightly. When you have been deceived, do not speak of it, lest you become contaminated. The laws of thought. Once a question about thought arose. The master said, "Through the internal radio, one can receive people's thoughts telepathically. These are ordinary thoughts. Human thoughts, in comparison with the divine ones, have longer wavelengths and lower frequencies of vibration. They cannot penetrate far away. The divine thoughts, in comparison with the human ones, have shorter wavelengths and higher frequencies. As a result of having powerful vibrations, divine thoughts can penetrate all other thoughts. No one and nothing can obstruct them. Sometimes we see that someone's thought has stopped at 2 spans over his head and can go no farther. Yet he says that he has prayed. No one can oppose divine thought. It reaches its destination. One needs to nourish divine thoughts. This means to begin thinking in the way in which God thinks. To love means to think. Love contains within itself divine thought. The way you understand and feel love, this is not love. Love contains that divine thought which resolves all difficulties and removes obstructions. Love which does not bring divine thought is not love, but ignorance. It is a lack of love. So, if you have divine love, you have divine thought as well. Therefore, when I talk about perceiving divine love, I have in mind that divine thought is to be realized within us as well. One of the laws states, "In order to improve your affairs, think, because divine thought is the reality which will produce a powerful influence. You feel darkness within you. You are sad. Accept then divine thought. Why are you suffering? It is because you do not have divine thought. How long will you suffer? Until you accept it. All difficulties are resolved by this thought. If you love people, you possess divine thought. If you hate them, you do not. Everyone who does not think is a slave. By thinking, however, I have in mind divine thought. Every person who thinks is a master. You say, I would like to be good, to become knowledgeable, and so on. Begin to think, and this will occur. With our thoughts, we can help in the upliftment of an entire nation and of humankind. Thought moves with a high speed. In contrast, the movement of light is like the speed of a wagon driven by buffalo. There is a law. When there are strands that bind you, sever them from the moment they appear. Do not wait for them to multiply and become ropes. This refers to a negative thought coming to you. For example, you will get sick. Immediately replace this thought with the positive thought, I will be healthy. When a thought, you will get old, comes, immediately replace it with the thought, I will rejuvenate. When the thought, you are bad, comes, immediately replace it with the opposite thought, I am good. When negative thoughts come to you, every one of them is like a strand, and when many such strands are added, they become a thick rope which you cannot sever and which binds you. However, when you sever each strand, they cannot be twisted into a rope. You are always a victim of someone else's thoughts. You are lacking knowledge. Sometimes you go out feeling happy, but you walk down a street where a person with negative thoughts has passed, and you become ill-disposed. One negative thought can paralyze someone, and a positive one can liberate him. The negative thoughts and desires are like bombs, which will explode at some time or other. Stay far away from them. If the water droplets fall continuously over a stone for many years, you will see what this water can do. Its quantity is a small one, but it will bore the stone through at the place where it has been falling. For the same reason, I say, the negative thoughts and desires, which have been falling for thousands of years over your mind and heart, have made a hole in them. These holes are the cause for the misfortune of contemporary people. Every negative thought and desire has a negative consequence. The day will come when these negative thoughts and desires will bring us to such consequences that any further development will cease. They can bring you to a mental decline, to blindness, and so on. Just as you can perceive the smell of onion in a house, so can the sensitive person perceive the smell of negative thoughts and feelings in a house. If you think well of others, this is good for you as well. If you think ill of others, it is bad for you as well. When I say that people need to think, I do not have in mind ordinary thought. One needs to be occupied with the sublime, the divine thoughts. Only these can save him. Beautiful thoughts come from the great wellspring of life. Right divine thought indicates the presence of God. When we connect with God, then divine thought, knowledge, and light will come. There is one knowledge for which it is not permitted to be talked about. I understand this as joy. Then the entire universe opens up for you. This is something that cannot be defined. It is like music. The advanced beings can heal with their powerful thought from a great distance. Knowing the power of thought, cultivate within yourself those powerful divine thoughts which elevate and envelop you. It is sufficient to have a vigilant consciousness in order to perceive the divine thought of the advanced beings. Work on your mind that you may become a conduit of divine thought. The least divine thought can uplift you and place you on solid ground. Accept and guard the least divine thoughts within you as a mother protects her children. Guard them, that you may enjoy greater thoughts in the future. The least thought matures, blossoms, and gives fruit. It makes people great. The seed is small, but from it grows a big tree. Within the divine thought, as small as it is hidden a miraculous power. The sun of human life has not yet risen, but people have guidelines which lead them. These are the least divine thoughts. They open the path to our bright future. The great divine thought has preceded the creation of the material world. The thought is the power that moves things. When human thought becomes unchangeable, it can alter the surrounding environment. But if you think in one way for 5 years in a row, and in another way for another 5 years, then you cannot achieve anything. Misery is the first impulse for a thought to appear. Misery is the first awakening toward the thought. It is the mother who says, "Get up." If you have one sacred idea, this will be received by thousands of people. You should express it and not worry about who will receive it and who will not. Thousands of people will hear and receive the idea that you have expressed. You have some thought. Do not be concerned with whether or not it will be realized. Just say it, and the thought will become widespread. Property. This morning we went out with our beloved Master to the wellspring. The path was winding down the mountain slope among the bushes and the young forest. When we came to the field near the path, we sat down to rest. The fields were ready for harvesting. The air was refreshed from the rain, and one could sense the ozone. Opening in front of us was a fine view of the vast valley, delineated into squares by fields and houses. Here and there, small villages could be distinguished by the smoke of their chimneys. One brother asked a question about private property. The Master said, "Just as the field produces wheat, man takes it and says that it belongs to him. He takes possession of the field and says that it is his. He sees the stones and says that they are his. If you need to pay taxes for the light and warmth you receive from the sun, how could you pay? When man is not aware of God, then he claims that all bounties belong to him. When people turn to God, they realize that everything existing in the world belongs to God. When they come to that realization, they become sons of God and inheritors of all his wealth, inheritors of the kingdom of God. You have a house, so you say, "This is my house. I inherited it from my father," or "With this money I built a house." The house is not yours, neither is the money yours. Are the stones for the house yours? You have taken them from the mountain. You say, "I bought them." You have bought them from a person who has appropriated them. To man belongs only what God has given him, only what he has been born with. The mind, heart, soul, and spirit which God has given him are his. Be aware of the attachment to private property that can suffocate people. To be first in the world, to be the strongest, richest, these are the ideas of private property. There is an anecdote about a conversation between a field and its owner. When the owner bought the field, he warned it, "I will draw the reins, and whether you want to or not, you will bear fruit for me." The field turned toward him and said, "I have sent off many like you. I will send you off as well." Wealth is a common bounty. It is a result of the activities of all sentient beings. What farmer can say that the fruits are really his? Along with him have worked oxen, horses, and hired laborers. Also, all the elements of nature have assisted. Therefore, the wealth in the world is a result of the combined efforts of all beings. No one can say that the wealth is his alone. It is not allowed that you build your happiness on the unhappiness of others. What is to be expected from the new life? What liberates people from the attachment to private property? People ask how to improve the world. If you collect iron shavings in a bottle and shake the bottle, they produce noise. Yet when they are melted together, they become a total mass, a whole, and no longer make noise. When the new comes, people will come together, and then these attachments to private property will be outgrown. The new human being. The Master once said, "What is the distinguishing feature of the new people?" If you would like to know whether someone is a new or an old human being, observe what kind of thoughts and feelings he is nourishing within. The old human being is feeding himself with negative thoughts and feelings, and the new with positive ones. When I speak about the new people, I have in mind those of the Son who live with joy. They are cheerful, generous, and have overcome their difficulties easily. They are heroes, people with open hearts. They use everything wisely. They enjoy everything. In both suffering and pleasure, the new people are filled with inner joy. They know that both bad and good conditions are given in order for them to grow. Guidelines for the spiritual student. The Master instructed us, "When you tread on a muddy or dusty road, become a bird and fly up to where there is no mud and dust." If a person faces some obstacle or contradiction in his mind, he needs to elevate himself to a higher realm. When he enters the realm of sublime thought, he becomes free from all contradictions. Do not bind yourself with temporary, transient things. If you bind yourself with them and begin to love them, then when you lose them, you will suffer. The person who does not want to be ruined by the collective thought of people needs to connect with the forces of living nature and elevate his consciousness to God. People treat their environment carelessly and without appreciation, but are attentive toward their material conditions. Parents provide the environment for the children, but no matter how good the parents are, the children are not attentive toward them. However, when there is a concern about the condition of some friend, the children will always accept him with enthusiasm and expectation. The father spends thousands of leva each year for the son to study abroad. Yet the son writes not even one letter of gratitude. However, if one of his friends buys him a ticket for the theater, he writes a letter to him immediately and thanks him for the pleasant evening they have spent together. Why does the son behave in two different ways? It is because the father represents the environment and the friend, the condition. If your friend starts to take care of you like a father, that is to say, change from being the condition to the environment, then you would stop thanking him and being attentive toward him. Therefore, guard yourselves from making things ordinary. Let every bounty you receive be a new expression, a new revelation for you of the sublime world, and not as something ordinary. Do not interfere in other people's affairs. By this you take on half of their debt. One law states, "The less faith you have, the more the sublime world becomes severe toward you, and vice versa." An artist knows that when he plays a role on stage, this is not real, but imaginary. He gets rich or poor, he cries or laughs, but all this is only fictitious. Similarly in life, when you are laughing or grieving, whether you are suffering or joyful, you need to understand that these are merely appearances. So you are on stage.